In September of 2016, Caroline Massey and her best friend Casey were enjoying a ride on Caroline's four-wheeler. A car was approaching from behind, so Casey tried to turn left to get out of the way. They missed the road and hit a utility pole. Caroline was on the ground, bleeding profusely. Casey immediately called her mother, who was with Caroline's mother.
All we could hear was her saying, "We've crashed, we've crashed." And they had crashed into the woods about a quarter of a mile down from our home. It was the most horrendous feeling I've ever felt.
The parents of both girls drove to the scene of the accident. Casey was waiting for them.
She was right there flagging us down, and the first thing she said was, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." So I knew from the get-go something wasn't good.
Leslie, a registered nurse, ran to her daughter's side.
I could feel that the left side of her head was just soft. It was enlarged. The blood was all over the right side of her face. I knew as a nurse that those were fatal wounds, that she had some fatal wounds.
They called 911 immediately. As the ambulance was driving in, prayers were already going up.
You could hear Casey in the background praying as loud as she could pray. That's all I could hear was that, and blocked everything else out and just, attended to Caroline.
As Caroline was loaded into the ambulance and taken to a medical airlift, the families continued to pray.
We just started praying, "Dear Lord, you are the great physician. You are gonna have to take this. There's nothing we can do, but we know that you can. And we know that whatever your will is, we have to accept it and take care of the girls and just have your way."
The helicopter flew Caroline to Batson Children's Hospital at the University of Mississippi Medical Center. She had 5 skull fractures, bleeding in the brain and brainstem, an orbital fracture, a tear in the carotid artery, and a collapsed lung.
My husband kind of panicked, and he looked at me and he said, "I can't lose her." And I said, "You know what? She is not yours. She is not mine, and she is not theirs." I said, "She belongs to one person, and I don't believe he's through with her. But if he is, then that is his to take." I said, "But she doesn't belong to us. Never did."
Caroline survived the night, but she remained in critical condition. They said she could be paralyzed or in a vegetative state for weeks, or even years. Leslie and Christopher continued to pray as Caroline had surgery to help stop the swelling around her brain.
We had set up a page for her the day after because I couldn't keep up with messaging and texting and keeping everybody up. And a friend of mine said, "What do you want to call this page so you can keep everybody up to date and they can pray?" And I said, "I'm calling it Caroline's Miracle, because that is what she's gonna have. She will walk out of this hospital on her own." And I told everybody, every doctor, every nurse, anybody that would listen that walked in there, they looked at me like I was crazy. But I said, "She's gonna walk out of here on her own." And as time went by, there were people that we found out that were praying in Afghanistan. There were people praying in other countries around the world.
Caroline was in ICU for 18 days. Her doctor said she would need inpatient rehab for at least 18 weeks. But things did not go as the doctors expected, and Caroline's rehab turned into an amazing recovery. Leslie captured nearly every minute with her cell phone. Opening her eyes for the first time, Caroline's first smile, her first sip of water, standing up for the first time, using a walker for the first time, and walking without her walker. Caroline was in rehab for only 6 days.
6 days. That is, that's just a miracle. Nobody does that.
People that say that the miracle don't happen, I tell them they're a lie. Because I got one I live with. And that's my daughter, because God did make sure that she was a miracle.
Dr. Edward Manning cared for Caroline after the accident.
You usually think about a period of about 2 years for most of the spontaneous recovery to occur, but she was much beyond that. And she was a very pleasant surprise.
Within a couple of days of rehab service, she was talking about wanting to go to church on Sunday, and the doctors agreed that she was able to go home, so she was very happy.
I definitely believe in the power of prayer, because if it wasn't for him, like, hearing people's prayers, I don't think I'd still be here.
He will give us his promises, but he don't always put it in our hands. Sometimes we have to go and reach for them. And prayer, to me, is like reaching for those promises.
I know that God still works miracles today because I'm still alive.